Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be discussing the concept of hypothesis. We will firstly define hypothesis, then understand the importance of setting a hypothesis in research. Then we'll discuss the four different types of hypothesis. And finally, we'll take an example in which we will apply our knowledge that we have gained in last few sessions from research problem to framing the research hypothesis. So let's understand firstly the definition of hypothesis. So hypothesis is an assumption made by the researcher at the beginning of the research which gives direction to the research. Post research, that means after collection of the data and analysis of the data, the hypothesis that we had set may turn out to be true or may turn out to be false. The next thing that we need to understand is that hypothesis cannot be a figment of imagination of the researcher. It has to essentially come from exploratory research, either through qualitative research or through literature review. Then the four types of hypothesis are descriptive, relational, causal, or mathematical. And hypothesis gives direction to the research. Now let's understand the first type of hypothesis, which is called a descriptive hypothesis. But let's again go back to hypothesis and understand that it is basically a relationship between the dependent and independent variable. I repeat, hypothesis actually gives a relationship between the independent and dependent hypothesis. So the first type of hypothesis is called descriptive hypothesis. Now, the very word descriptive comes from describe or description. So, we are going to describe the relationship between the dependent and independent variable. Let's take two examples. Fuel efficiency is the most important attribute in purchase of a car. Fuel efficiency is the independent variable and purchase of a car is a dependent variable. And this hypothesis is trying to state that fuel efficiency is the most important attribute. So it is describing the relationship between dependent and independent variable. Similarly, reduced land holding is responsible for the slow growth of agriculture in India. So reduced land holding is an independent variable and slow growth of agriculture is the dependent variable. And we are trying to describe the relationship between the two. The next type of hypothesis is called relational hypothesis. It gives the relation between the two independent variable as regards to their impact on the dependent variable. For example, brand personality is more important to emotional buyers than rational buyers. So here we are making a comparison of how brand personality is impacting the two different types of buyers. So it is trying to differentiate between emotional and rational buyers. The third type of hypothesis is called mathematical hypothesis. So I think it is very obvious from the very term mathematical that the hypothesis will have mathematical terms. For example, the proportion of dissatisfied employees in a company ABC is the same as the company PQR. Here, the term proportion makes it a mathematical hypothesis. Or 80% of mutual fund investors prefer a balanced fund. Again, here 80% will be considered as the mathematical term. The next and the last is a causal hypothesis. Causal comes from cause and effect relationship. So there will be a cause and there will be an effect. And the description is given by the causal hypothesis.
For example, increase in household income leads to an increase in the percentage of income saved. Here, both variables are moving in the same direction. They are both moving up. But one may move up, the other may move down. Both may move simultaneously together up or down. Increase in customs duty on gold will decrease gold purchase in India. As one goes up, the other goes down. So, having understood these four, now let's apply the knowledge that we have gathered in last few sessions into one example where from research problem to hypothesis will be easily understood. So here is a topic: large-scale farmer suicides in India during 2004 to 2014. A very unfortunate event and needs research. So what can be the probable reasons? They can be either social or economic. Now, as a researcher, I may not be an expert in agriculture, and therefore I need to do a lot of homework about agriculture. So the next step is a detailed study of agriculture in India, referring to a number of books, journals, magazines, research studies on agriculture done by various research scholars to basically understand the research. So, a topic is framed: agriculture in India, past, present, and future. Then, further insights are needed in agriculture. Therefore, a detailed discussion is done with agricultural experts to basically understand the agriculture, the nuances that are involved in agriculture. So, the next step is to do a focus group discussion with sociologists. And that is because we have identified two variables, either economic or social. And to further dwell into the research, we need to be uh, we need to be very clear as to which variable is the most impactful. And therefore, a focus group discussion is done with the sociologists to understand the contribution of social factors to suicides by farmers. And during these discussions, it came out very clearly that social factors are not very important. So the conclusion was it is because of the economic reasons. And therefore, the research problem framed is farmer suicides in India during 2004 to 2014, an economic perspective. Now, further getting into the research, we'll have to do still more exploratory research. So, the best way is to go back to the 5 year plans. In the old days, we had the Planning Commission, now it's called the Niti Aayog. So, Planning Commission, the website of Planning Commission gives you all 5 year plans. So, here, all 11 5 year plans were studied and they indicated that there was a consistent reduction in contribution or outlay to agriculture, and there was also a reduction in the contribution of agriculture to the overall GDP. In 1947, agriculture contributed about 50% to the GDP. Today, it is less than two digits. Also, the allocation to agriculture shows consistent reduction in the different plans. Further, it was also observed that the productivity index was showing a gap in the percentage increase per acre production to increase in population. That means the rate at which the population is increasing, the agricultural growth is not matching with that. Okay. Further studies also indicated, again through exploratory research, that awareness, education, lack of scientific methods in agriculture, quality and standardization, price realization, right up to lack of modern irrigation facilities by farmers has led to stagnation in production. So, all these that we have discussed right now basically are being identified as variables. So, number of suicides and low agricultural income become the dependent variable, and lack of adequate support of the government, lack of awareness and education, absence of modern scientific practices, and lack of agricultural and agri credit and insurance. So some of the variables I've selected from the last slide and I've identified them as the variables. Now we have to create a relationship between these variables, and that is a hypothesis. So, lack of modern scientific methods are responsible for low agri incomes. So, independent variable is lack of modern scientific methods, and dependent variable is low agri income. Lack of adequate agricultural credit is leading to high farmer indebtedness. And lastly, absence of crop insurance leads to heavy farmer losses. I hope you have understood the concept of hypothesis. So we'll end our session at this place, at this point, and we'll continue in our next sessions. Please subscribe to my channel, share and like this video. Thank you. Thank you very much.